Hello everyone, welcome back to Gilgamesh in Joust. Now, first off, the update dropped 2 days ago when you're watching this. Well, let me rephrase that. When I release this, it will have been 2 days ago. Now, this is a particularly interesting Joust game for a couple of reasons. First off, this team comp may look really shoddy at first glance. We have no range, right? Which usually is construed as an issue in a team comp. However, we all also do very well with auto attacks, so I already know that first off, I'm going to want to play tank Gilgamesh, and second off, that I'm going to be going with a very heavy attack speed boosting War Flag build. Alright, what volume are we at here for this? Let's go down to 30 here. Let's go down to 25. Anyways, back to the point. So I already know that I'm going to be going for that. Second off, their damage has a very auto attack heavy focus as well, so I already know that I'm going to be wanting to reduce the enemy's attack speed at the same time. So I already have a way clear of what I'm going to be building. I'm going to be building War Flag. They have two magics, so I'm going to go right into Shogun's Kusari right afterwards. Then I'm going to be looking to get into Witchblade, and then I will be going into very definitely Talisman of Energy. That's 4 items I already know ahead of time that I'm going to be building and the order I will be building them in. I already know this. My 5th item will probably be Midgardian Mail, but that may change depending on how the match goes. But I already know my first 4 items at the very least. Okay? Also, I'm kind of registering as well in the background that they have a lot of self-heal, so I'm going to want my 6th item to be Tainted Blade, unless it winds up being my 5th item, because I just really need the anti-heal. Which you can see me, gathering together. I decided to go Horrific Emblem. Now, actually, what my initial goal there was I wasn't sure if I wanted to go with the belt or the talisman, right? The Horrific Emblem, excuse me. The belt would increase our attack speed and our damage output, but the Horrific Emblem is going to decrease their attack speed and damage output, and I ultimately wind up going with the Horrific Emblem because it goes really well with Gilgamesh's ult. I just wanted to really quickly express that. Alright? So we're going to start at the speed. Now, there are two different ways people approach this particular Joust map, primarily. The first way is for everyone to gather up at the speed buff, clear that really quick, and then really quickly clear the blue buff, or 2 on speed, 1 on blue, and I think that this second option is what Ao Kwang is going for. He throws down a ward. I think he's going to go for the blue buff, but he winds up starting to come back, but we already take care of that. He really should have just gone for the blue buff in all honesty, which I was going to go skip because I wasn't sure whether or not he was going to go for it at all, because he didn't go for it earlier, but he does go for it, so here we are. I was a little confused there. I wasn't sure what he was intending to do there. And I'm going to pop off really quick. Now, the enemy team, you can see very clearly what happened here. She helped clear... I'm assuming she helped clear one of the buffs, but didn't pick it up. I'm guessing that they're giving the blue buff to Sobek, maybe. I'm not really sure what they did wrong there. You can see Shibulonga coming up with the blue buff here. I go for the experience buff with Ao Kwang here, which takes a really long time. This is actually because he's going for a second tank build, which I don't realize at this time yet, and this is where I start to disconnect. This is actually I don't even need to pause this. This is me thinking I'm about to disconnect, right? I have no idea what's going on at this particular point in time. This is usually what I see before I lag out and disconnect, so I'm not expecting this to be a salvageable episode, but I wind up just being here, my team not in a great position. Now, I'm getting my bearings here. I have to now register a very sudden and drastic change in information. I don't talk about this often. This is one of the reasons why you're actually seeing this episode, is because I do get the rare opportunity to talk about this. Now, I've just basically returned from a near disconnect. Right, because I believe I was the only one with an issue, since apparently the two teams were fighting in the meantime. I have no idea what the hell happened, but we got the worst end of it, mostly because I wasn't there. But now suddenly, I'm here, almost completely fresh, and I'm, absolutely great. So this becomes a really interesting thing. For me right now, my priority is to keep my allies alive. right? So I'm going to go in here. I'm trying to scare the enemy. Sobek takes advantage of that. I should probably not have jumped in there, but I go on ahead and use my Horrific Emblem. I dedicate, do some damage. I'm retreating because I'm taking a lot of damage and my allies aren't in great shape either. But now notice that because I went in, the enemy damage has dropped in HP considerably, but I've lost a bit of HP. My allies have recovered some from potion use, right? This Sobek, though, is absolutely fine, which just means he's not tanking enough damage, which you'll see come up as a fairly consistent problem throughout the match. The Sobek is just... the Sobek... we'll talk about the Sobek as it goes along. I don't want to give away any spoilers here, but they back off because obviously they don't want to take that risk, right? And they actually didn't need to... This is the interesting thing. They didn't need to back off there, right? Their Sobek was at near full HP, and at this point pretty much is. They still had the advantage to some extent. I mean, Gilgamesh is a little bit low on health here, but he's got plenty of mana, which is a really great thing for Gilgamesh. The Freya was low on mana and health, but she still could have done something, right? There was no actual need for them to back up, and their backing up actually does give Aokwang this opportunity. Now he goes in. Now notice I don't run in to save him. I have a general idea at this point due to the slowness of taking out that experienced camp that he's probably building something defensive. I don't know he's going full-blown defensive with an animosity end goal. I'm not aware of that, but I understand that he's got something that's making him a little tankier than normal and a little less damage. But if I go in, I'm just going to die too, right? Because right now this is tower shots, this is Gilgamesh. What I'm going to be looking to do will maybe be body block some shots for Gilgamesh after the fact, which is exactly what I do here, right? I body block that shot, he gets out, I go and pick up my item, right? But the reason why I didn't jump in to try to save him is, first off, my kick was down. So I wasn't going to be able to do much other than body block shots. And second off, body blocking shots wasn't going to mean anything if that tower shot killed him. It didn't because of his build. Now, in response to Gilgamesh's ult, I throw my ult out in the hopes that I can prevent her from dying, which does happen. Now, I get a little lucky here. Hold on, let's go back over this. So, Kali's here, she's half dead, and she's got very little mana left. I have no idea why she's aggressing on this. She should not be. Sobek clearly sees this opportunity. This is a great call by Sobek, by the way. Absolutely fantastic when he throws her back. Gilgamesh ults to help make sure that I can't interfere, right? That is why he's ulting there. He wants to decrease the possibility that I can save her, so I throw out my ult because I know, generally speaking, where Gilgamesh is. I throw my ult out. He has to ult out himself to make sure he gets out. And now at this particular point, I basically scrape by barely. Get hit by the ult here. I'm looking to just set up the Sobek for Aokwang. Aokwang is right here. I'm going to be basically kicking Sobek under tower and for Aokwang. Success. I somehow live. I think Gilgamesh missed a shot. Aokwang picks up the Sobek. Right. That is a little bit luck, right? I was not expecting to live after the kick, so that's very, very nice for me. Like I said, I'm pretty sure the Gilgamesh just missed a shot. Either way, it worked out very well in my favor, and so now at this point, I really shouldn't be up this far still. We've got Freya here. I do the kick. I'm ready to run it the first time she does something, which is why I back up here, because I realize you can actually see me. Right, so I advance because she's retreating. I throw down my ward. I move forward to do the wave, right, or help with the wave. And I'm going to go, at this point you can see me thinking about going for the archers, and then I back off because I don't want to be that committed. Because that's very risky for me right now. So I just back off, I let Aokwang clear that. I stay there to make sure that Freya doesn't try anything on Aokwang, right? Because I also don't know where Sobek is at that point, or Gilgamesh. We clear the experience camp, we're going to clear the blue buff, and then I'm going to be out of here. Because I just really want to go back and not die, right? I also want to pick up Shogun's Kusari so I can really increase my allies' damage output, make myself a little tankier, sell this Spike Gauntlet because I don't want or need that, and then my next move is going to be the Witchblade, which I could not find in my own inventory for some unholy reason. I must have had a brain fart or something. So back out I go, right? I have the strength of the Shogun's Kusari. My allies are going to have a nice boost in their attack speed. And you know, at this particular point, Alquang is backing. I was going to go in until I saw him backing, and then I decided to take this a little slower, give him the opportunity. This is, by the way, this is the exact moment when I see the real Nero has purchased a Gauntlet of Thieves. This is where I check, and lo and behold, he's going a full tank, and Kali is going hybrid tank. Now, this is going to go back to what I was saying before in various previous episodes in Joust, where two tanks are really hard to get rid of, but I'm not talking about two full tanks. I'm talking about building a little bit of hybrid. Splashing a little bit of protections in Joust makes a much bigger difference than in any other game mode because, again, you've only got 3 opponents. There's only 3 enemy gods attacking you, so protections mean a little bit more, simply by merit of the fact that the damage is coming at you much slower. You can see even here where the Kali has Mannequin Scepters. She's built that to give herself a small boost in physical protections. She didn't build that purely for the damage. She built that for 2 reasons. 1, small boost in physical protections. 2, it decreases the attack speed of victims. And with Freya and She Blanca as your opponents, that is a really great thing. That is going to really help you stay alive. That is why she built that way. And it works out absolutely fantastically. So at this point, we're just trying to maintain the wave, you know, get some farm here. Usual stuff. I'm not trying to commit right now. Alquang is back. You know, now I'm looking for a potential entrance. Kali makes that decision for me. I have about a heart attack. I throw my ult down. I pick up that kill. I'm trying to... Once Freya dies, you'll notice I immediately move on to the She Blanca. That is my next priority immediately. Right? Sobek, yes, he's their front line, he's their support, but he is ultimately still just a distraction. He is looking to slow me down and deal some damage here, but ultimately I want to be attached to this She Blanca, trying to make him miss because he moves in the right direction. He leads out of the Alquang, that's fine. I'm giving up that chase, Alquang picks it up. Great job on the Alquang, by the way. Sobek doesn't kill me, it's not going to work, obviously. The tank, I have War Flag. It's not even 5 minutes yet, the towers aren't hitting that hard. So I'm, going to go back and go for this experience, but we're not going to be able to push that with how low health we have. We just don't have the resources to push that tower. I'm going to go back, but then Kali decides to initiate on the damage buff. I want to make sure Sobek doesn't come after her, so I'm going to come up and help her out here. More to make sure that Sobek doesn't do anything, but he's too busy with the wave, which is the correct decision, by the way. It's a safe decision. It's going to help him get experience. Great decision. Now, I'm going to, at this point, clear the speed buff for myself. Kali has damage, Alquang has mana, so now the speed buff is mine. Or it's Kali's, but it's damage, right? This is generally what you want to do as the front line of a Joust game in this particular version of the map. Now I'm going to go back. Now I'm going back for a couple of very specific reasons. First off, I just got my speed buff, so I'm going to return to the lane a little bit faster than normal. Second, I really, really want Witchblade to help my allies stay alive, help myself stay alive, and there it is right there, right? Kali's there to defend the lane. I'm not really worried about it. So I'm just going, Alquang just got his ult back. I'm about to get my ult. Kali's about to get her ult. I'm calling for a gank here because I think we can win this. We're ahead, right? We have more ult experience. I get a huge kick. Now that's actually a really huge thing I really want to quickly talk about with Gilgamesh, and something that makes Gilgamesh uniquely effective in Joust is the potential to stun 2 enemies with 1 move, namely the kick. Kicking 1 enemy god into another enemy god will stun both of them, which is insanely powerful when there's only 3 enemies. In this particular instance, I stunned the 2 damage dealers, which you want to be doing normally anyways. They basically lined me up for that because of the Sobek. See, the Sobek actually makes a mistake here. And this is something he does consistently throughout the match. You will see this more often. I jump in, I go onto the Freya, Sobek throws me back. I'm looking to now take advantage of this by kicking one of them, at the very least, towards my allies. I incorrectly started the fight, by the way. I forgot to mention that I shouldn't have jumped in at the time I did because Kali is way too buff. But I get this beautiful kick, stunning both of them. And now, any concern... Now, if I hadn't gotten that kick, we would have been in a bit more trouble. Alquang and I would have been in some difficulties because I would have been taking consistent damage from one or the other of them. And, while my protections are in an okay spot, I still have to be a little careful with this. But I'm also operating on a different assumption entirely. Let's go back for a little bit, because I want to talk about the enemy builds here This is going to be quite a bit far back. There we go. This is where I check the builds. Now, this is something I forgot to mention earlier. Real Nero purchased the Gauntlet of Thebes. I checked the builds. Notice that She Blanque seems to be going for stacks. This is important. I suspect probably Sobek is also going for stacks with Gauntlet of Thebes. Maybe. Possibly. But with that being a possibility... Ooh, I went way too far there. That was the speed buff. That's the fight. Here's where I jumped in. And back. Okay. Deep press. Because now we've taken less damage. I locked in She Blanque. Considering his dash is down, Outcome takes him out. We've got this nice low health Blanque here. I kill him off. I'm going to die for the attempt, or theoretically I do. Except the shell from Alquang saves my life. Absolutely fantastic. They wind up taking out the Sobek, and we have an absolutely huge advantage at this point. Alright. Now, at this particular point in time, I'm looking to get my Talisman of Energy. Again, more of those delicious magic protections. Alquang is pressing the tower, which is okay. Kali's going for their camps. She's taking a bit of a risk. The Alquang has the health to be able to get away if he needs to. Kali does not. So her dropping that mana buff was a bit risky there. She also really shouldn't have been that far up. If she'd been banished by Freya, that could have been very dangerous. I was fresh and probably could have saved her, but it would have cost me some health at the very least. Right. It was a risk, but they didn't do anything with that, so it's fine. That's about it. Just a risk. I accidentally hit my K key there. And now at this point, I'm just trying to defend this tower. Sobek is going really hard on me because obviously I'm alone out here. I failed to get a kick on one of them, which is very unfortunate. That would have been pretty big. They back off because I didn't just run. So they're assuming someone's coming, which is true. Here's Ao Kuang, right? So I'm not yet looking for initiation. Ao Kuang kind of scares me a little bit. And then he gets pulled back, and I have to dedicate at this point just to save his life. I throw out my curse. Get She Blanque out of there, which was minimally what I needed to do. It would have been better to kill him, obviously, but at the very least, he didn't put any more pressure on Ao Kuang. So like, this is huge. I take him back, I'm trying to do some damage to him. Ao Kuang is just coming in now. I think he was stealing an experience camp. I'm not really sure what the hell he's doing. She Blanque wicked overcommits here. Can't really blame him. Now, the She Blanque overcommitted on that because if he can kill Kali, who is at this point a level higher than him with several kills higher than him, their team doesn't have any kills yet, that would be really big for him. That would be really big for his team. That would be a really nice swing in their favor in terms of experience and gold. So I can understand why he committed so hard to that. It unfortunately didn't work out. I was right there. Kali goes onto the Freya. I'm looking to keep the Sobek off. That works. She kills the Freya. Absolutely fantastic. Now we're looking to take this tower. Again, I have Shogun's Kusari. We're all auto attackers. We melt this thing. Nice and quick. Now we're prepping to take other stuff. I want to take the Phoenix. They go for buffs. Which is sort of unnecessary, quite frankly, knowing that Ao Kuang... And this is actually an interesting thing. Knowing Ao Kuang is also building tank, and I have Shogun's Kusari, we very easily... We wouldn't have been able to take the Phoenix, don't get me wrong here. But we could have done a substantial amount of damage to this, right? But we don't. They go for the buffs. Not necessarily itself a bad choice either. I just didn't pick up the context there in time. So I took some unnecessary damage. I have to go back. And at this point, I'm going to go for the Berserker's Shield because as I was double-checking there, it has been buffed slightly. Right, I wasn't sure, I couldn't remember, so I was double-checking to make sure it's been buffed very slightly. It has 10 more physical protections, so it's going to be enough physical protections to balance out where I need it. I'm going to go ahead and drop the speed. My allies are clearing the wave. I'm not concerned about them. We're far enough ahead of the enemy team that even if a fight starts without me, which it did here, that they're probably going to be fine. They don't have mana, clearly. They don't have much in the way of mana, but they have the health to be able to get away from most problems without too much trouble. Again, you have to remember that there's only 3 enemies. Now I'm going to get experience buff. I'm not really concerned about the enemy interrupting me. I have really good protections to this point. They're not really hitting that hard. He does steal that, which is good on him. And I am kind of surprised they didn't initiate on me. I was expecting them to. I don't want to initiate here. I'm by myself, and even... Now, see... I go the long way around, not because I'm afraid of the damage. I know I'm going to get out alive, right? I just established that very likely I wouldn't die. But there would also be no point to me going that way or initiating because I am alone, and while I can absolutely survive the results, I'm also not building enough damage of any variety to be able to kill anyone. It would ultimately just be me losing a lot of health for no reason and having to go back to Fountain, which I don't need to do. So there was really no point, so I decided not to tempt them. You can see, I'm double checking, they are building the stacks like I thought they were going to, which that's a rather big mistake. See, Joust is interesting where Joust is a fairly quick game mode, and in a lot of situations, Joust maps end before you can really build up the stacks. I don't often build stacking items in Joust. Some people do, some people don't. I typically find that it takes too long for them to stack for them to be effective in time, right? You can see where the Sheep Blanc only has 29 stacks on his Transcendence at this point, and we're already at their Phoenix. So Uplong initiates, I walk in with him basically. I'm going to commit. I probably dedicated a little too hard on my boy here. I back off, because at this point, I don't know where my allies are, because I was blind. We're going to kill Freya here, right? Just get him, or her killed. There she goes, right? At this point, Ao Kuang reinitiates on the Sheep Blanc. I'm not terribly surprised by this. I'm just going to try to make sure he gets out. He takes the Sheep Blanc. I whiff my kick completely. It was horrific. And then at this point, I want to try and take the Phoenix. They back out. This time I'm following the queue, and I'm leaving that behind, right? Now, I still think we can take this. They all back off for the blue buff, which is fine. I'm just going to do some damage to this. I'm aware of the fact they're clearing the blue. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just doing some extra damage to the Phoenix. And now I'm just going to clear the wave and leave. Right, Ao Kuang is looking to commit. I don't like this anymore because now the enemies have respawned. Now we're in danger, especially with Kali, that health. Try to force the Sobek to back off. He sort of does, not really. And so I call the retreat, we go back, right? Kali's going for the damage buff, which is, again, risky. She's been fairly risky. She's a fairly risky player, which is fine. But my immediate priority is to rush to her to make sure she doesn't get slapped by somebody. All three of them are up. They might want the damage buff. A lot of people do. I'm concerned. She clears it very quickly. No risk, no problem. I switch to just taking this experience buff. Right? Lovely times. So Kali initiates for... no, I think she was actually plucked by Sobek. I can't save her, unfortunately. So what my ult was a second too late. I ulted to try to save her, but I was clearly a second too late. I shouldn't have even bothered throwing my ult out there, but here we are, ultless, and facing down three enemies in lane. Ao Kuang is holding the blue buff, so what I'm trying to do right here is distract them. That's why I kick Freya aside. It's why I use my ability to slow down, my Sunforce Scimitar to slow down Sobek. I'm now fighting. Now, at this particular point in time, this would make a great ganking opportunity for Ao Kuang. Why the hell he decides he's going to go for the experience buff, I don't know, but this is not exactly a great time for that. He could lose this tower here, because while I do the best I can to set up for Ao Kuang, even now, after clearing the experience buff, he's going to the other experience camp. Now I'm just trying to, fight off Sobek. At this point, I am expecting at this point that Ao Kuang is going to clear that speed buff and then go for them. So I want to distract Sobek here as long as possible. That is my goal right now, is just to keep Sobek busy so Ao Kuang can kill those two. But he backs off. At that point, I'm leaving. I have no idea what Ao Kuang's thought process was there. That was not the move. There was a huge opportunity to absolutely clean up the entirety of the enemy team right there under that tower. And there would have been zero issues. We could have gone from that team wipe to clearing their Phoenix. I don't know why the Ao Kuang decided instead to take all these experience camps. It didn't make sense to me then. It still doesn't now, even watching it back. It still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But they're initiating. That's fine because we're so far ahead at this point. You can see where we're 2 to 4 levels ahead of them across the board. Not really concerned. They're advancing. Kali goes in. That's totally fine. She's really going hard on Freya because Freya's her target. Freya ults her to death, basically. Sheep Blanc picks it up, obviously, but, we take out Sheep Blanc. I'm looking to take the Phoenix here. Both of them are dead. Ao Kuang and I are up. We've got no issues with this. We're about to have some minions come up. I think we can take this. Right, he clears those minions, and I'm going in for this, and Ao Kuang goes for mana buff again. at this point is some kind of weird obsession. I'm just going to keep on poking the Phoenix at this particular point. I know so much going out there, I can jump away from this ult just there. Not a problem. I was originally going to take this more, but I'm taking too much damage here. I wouldn't make it. So I leave. Right, and now I'm out of here. Sobek is pressing on Ao Kuang for some reason. He doesn't have the kind of damage to do anything with that, so I'm not really sure what that story is. But nevertheless, I build my Berserker's Shield. I'm now working on my Toxic Blade, right? Now I'm going to speed buff. Ao Kuang isn't in any danger. He's got enough mana to make an escape if he needs. He's got plenty of health. He's building tank. It's fine, right? No issues. He's going for the damage buff. I'm going to let him solo clear that so he gets more gold experience. I'm going to solo clear this for the same reason. And the enemy team initiates here. Alright, we can deal with this. Now my allies retreat, so I'm going to create a distraction here. This is purely distraction. I'm not initiating for the sake of trying to get a kill here. I'm trying to apply pressure. Again, I'm level 60 and I'm building full tank. I have 160 plus of each protection. I'm not really worried because I already know that they were building stacks, so they're not as strong as they could be. They don't have penetration yet, so they're not going to punch through my protections that easily. I'm relatively safe. I'm just trying to create this distraction. Right? I'm going to go a little harder here because I've damaged Gilgamesh way more than I expected. You can see how Ao Kuang finished again. And then I just basically work down Gilgamesh. We kill him. We take out Freya really quick. Right? She ults to try to save herself. But ultimately, the difference. He picks her up, which is great for her health and mana. Try to stop Sobek. I jump here so I can block his dash, which I block right here, you can see. Great. And now I'm thinking, alright, we can take the Phoenix. So let me go clear the wave here. Right? That is my thought process, because they're proxying this. So I'm assuming, alright, I'll take this out, they'll take that out, and we're absolutely golden. Then they just go for the Phoenix, which surprises me quite a lot. I just clean up the wave, obviously, but that was what I thought they were doing. Probably dies to the Phoenix, that's fine. Phoenix got the credit, so it doesn't mean anything. Ao Kuang backs. Gilgamesh is about to come back up. And originally I was going to wait for the minions and try to do some poke to the Titan, but I decided against this because, you know, at this particular point, I don't know what he's built, because I haven't checked in a little while, so I'm just leaving. Right? I'm going to go ahead and clear this on my way out, and then that's basically it. Oh, no, excuse me, I forgot that I tested this out because I hadn't done one of these yet, and I realized, oh yeah, he's tankier than I remember him being, so let me get out of here. So this is where I'm going to be finishing up my Toxic Blade, and then I'm going to start saving up for the War Banner. And at this point, I just want to defend the Phoenix, because there's really nothing else to do right now. My allies are Heroes Square, they're both fountain actually. I'm just going to go on ahead and use some poke here basically. I go on my ult, right? So that bugs me out. I just let it happen. Go down wave. Poke here. I'm not really expecting to heal her. I'm expecting Holly to at this point. And she absolutely just slaps down Freya, which is fantastic. Now I'm looking for Gilgamesh at this point. Here we go. Feeds out of it. Excellent. And I use her again to survive. And now Sobek is going to be after me, right? However, I have all these protections. Sobek doesn't have penetration, so I just pick him right here. And then Holly picks him up. I go ahead and use my jump to get some lifesteal from my dead circle there, because that gives you a lifesteal. And then we just pick up the Titan right here at the end of the game. Now, my only real complaint about this match, besides my near disconnect, is that strange decision by the Ao Kuang to basically give up our tower in favor of buffs. That still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. That was a clean... We could have taken the Phoenix on the strength of that win if he'd gone for that. But that's fine. Now, I want to really quickly talk about builds. Obviously, not everyone... Actually, very few people full build. I came close to full build, but I didn't quite make it because obviously I hadn't upgraded my war flag. You can actually see here that... Yes, the Gilgamesh built the stacks, so did the Sobek, and they completed the stacks. But the issue is that it still is going to take so long to complete those stacks that it is incredibly difficult for you to have a strong mid-game when you're doing that, right? It's just very, very difficult for that to work out that way. I really don't recommend building stacks too often. You can sometimes get away with Soul Eater because you're getting 12 stacks per wave because your minions dying counts towards that as well. So Soul Eater is sometimes an exception depending on how aggressive the enemy team composition looks. But that would be the only exception with an asterisk, really. So that's, part of the reason why they had a rough time here. Sobek, while behind, did build the correct. Well, see, it's not. I actually want to go back for a second to the stacks. It's not just that they were building regular stacks in Joust. All right, that is not just the problem. Stacks can be effective in Joust if you're very careful with your planning. They were already behind. When you're behind, you don't want to be building stacks. You need that boost in strength right away. You need that damage spike if you're behind. And stacking items, or at least in terms of Gauntlet of Thebes, you need that protection boost, that spike in protections now, not tomorrow, right? Basically. So building stacks when you're behind in Joust, which is already a shorter than average game mode, is basically giving up your mid game, right? And you'll actually notice that the mid game is really where our team pulled way ahead. Like, we were ahead in the early game, but not by a ton. I think we had 3-ish kills by the time we started transitioning to that mid game. We cleared their tower. They respond with stacks, right? The Freya didn't respond with stacks. She responded with a wicked early demonic grip. That is way too early to be building demonic grip. The reason why it's way too early to be building demonic grip as a second item is specifically because it reduces enemies' magic protections by 10%, 3 times, I think, for a 30% reduction total. But nobody was going to have the magic protections. Sure, I did because I built Shogun's Gusari, and Ao Kuang was able to get away with Gauntlet of Thieves because we were ahead, right? That's purely the reason why Ao Kuang got away with Gauntlet of Thebes so much better than Sobek. We won the first couple of early game fights. As a result, Ao Kuang, having gotten ahead via winning those fights, he could afford to back off and let Kali and I kill the wave so he could get his assist stacks. He could afford to do that in that particular scenario, right? Sobek, already behind in experience very specifically, because obviously Sentinel's gift is going to give him gold, but he was already behind in experience, and not getting at least some kills was going to really hurt his ability to catch up and maintain in terms of gold. Well, not gold, in terms of experience, right? But Freya, Demonic Grip as a second item is going to be a problem because, again, usually enemies don't have a high enough magic protection to justify that. In fact, my protections weren't even at 100 yet, right? Even with Shogun's Kusari, I think they were floating around. I think you start with, like, what, 40? No, they would have been about 100, so I would have lost 30, right? But you can, at 100 protections, 30 of my protections sounds like a lot, but then you can build literally any flat pin item and get half of that and a nice power spike, right? She really should have gone for the Ring of Hecate, which would have also given her lifesteal, right? That would have been a bit better choice, and Demonic Grip later on is like a fourth item, maybe. Although, given how Ao Kuang was building it, probably would have served her a little better as a third item. But Ring of Hecate definitely should be your second item if you're playing an auto-attack mage in most circumstances. Demonic Grip should never really be your second item unless the enemy team is so hideously tanky that you really need it. And that's just, this is Joust. No one's going to be that hideously tanky that early on, right? Sheep Blanc's build, besides my criticism of stacks, is fine. Heartseeker is a bit of an interesting move. He is clearly going for the ability damage there for some reason. Not sure why. He would have been better off with chin size, personally, but I know some people build him ability-based. But that's a general overview of Gilgamesh on the new/old Joust map. We will be coming back to this with Gilgamesh, obviously. There's more I want to talk about. Plenty more I want to talk about, but for now, this is a good overview of, where I'm thinking when I'm taking Gilgamesh into Joust, and it was a very interesting opportunity to talk about disconnects and a very unique team comp on my side that I could take advantage of and really talk about for once. So that was really nice to have. So anyways, with that being said, thank you all very much for joining me. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, please ignore me. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, or requests, please leave them down in the comment section below. And thank you all very much for joining me, and have a great 24 hours.